thing, and the more you think about these things, the more it makes sense. So at first it doesn't really make sense, but then you think about it. So when you saw that dodecahedron net being laid out, the two-dimensional one, you saw there was little gaps in between the pentagons, and if you fold them up at the right angle, they kind of connect to each other, and it produces like a curve that they all go around and creates a shape. Similarly, with this 120 cell, these pentagons would all connect. These dodecahedra almost connect. They could almost like be a network, kind of like you could have cubes. You could put them around each other, and you could like have like an array of cubes. But they don't quite. So the only way to make it happen is to fold them up out of the space, and you can make these things out of them. All right. Next is the duocylinder and the tiger. So this is not a regular tiger. This is not a three-dimensional tiger. It's a four-dimensional tiger, and it's very exciting, but it doesn't look like a tiger at all. I don't know why they call it a tiger. And the duocylinder. So I'll start with the duocylinder because the tiger is derived off of it. And find the duocylinder here. All right, duocylinder. This is a cross-section of a duocylinder. And moving along. Now, it really is. This is a really hard shape to really understand. I don't know if you can fully understand it. So, a duocylinder is a type of 4D cylinder that has no 3D equivalent. I'm reading off the text. N-dimensional balls are the following objects, including their inside, that I've told you about earlier. There's the 1D line, which actually is an n-dimensional ball. It doesn't look round, but it is in a one-dimensional sense because all the points, there's two of them, are equidistant from the center. And there's 2D circles, 3D spheres, 4D hyperspheres. In 3 dimensions, one can combine these shapes by extruding, that is, moving and copying one shape along another. The total of dimensions must be 3 to make a 3D shape. 3 lines can make a cube, so you take a line, extrude it along another line, you get a square, another line, you get a cube. And 1 line and 1 circle make a cylinder, so you have a cylinder and a line, a circle and a line, you get a cylinder. And 1 sphere by itself is just a sphere. In 4D, you can do the same stuff by moving and copying one shape along another. And the total number of dimensions, when you add these components up, must be 4 to make a 4D shape. So 4 lines can make a hypercube. 2 lines and 1 circle make a cubinder. And probably the easiest to understand is 1 line and 1 sphere make a spherender. So you imagine a sphere, and then along the 4th dimension, you have a line perpendicular to it. You stretch it along, and you have kind of cylinder thing with a spherical base. Now, because the base is 3-dimensional instead of a usual 2-dimensional base for a prism or cylinder, this shape will be 4-dimensional because it's 3 plus 1. And you can also have a duocylinder, which is you have 2 circles, you have to have them perpendicular to each other, and then you make this duocylinder thing. And anyway, it's really weird, funny looking shape. And you can get this tiger shape I told you about by extruding a sphere along the edge of a duocylinder. So it looks like 2 hoops. Let's see, as I move along the cross sections. Let's see it.
How is that a tiger?
I don't know why they called it a tiger, but it just, well, it's orange, but it could be any color. It doesn't have to be orange. When the app just happens to be orange. But it's called a tiger for some reason. And yeah, so I've talked to you about a lot of things like all these shapes and everything. Now I'll talk about like stuff like superpowers. So no, like they are actually like superpowers, but of course everything's relative, so it's relative to other worlds. This is about seeing inside of lower dimensional things. So imagine there's flatland again. Now we could see inside of it. So if there's like someone here and there'd be a wall over here, this is all flat, and then someone on the other side, they wouldn't be able to see each other because the wall would get in their way. They wouldn't be able to see past the wall. They can't see above, they can't see below. It's just the landscape. Everything's completely flat. And so they'd have their line of sight, and they wouldn't be able to see past any barriers unless the barriers were clear like glass. But for the most part, they wouldn't be able to see past anything. That means that if you have like another person, flat person of course, you wouldn't be able to see inside of them because you'd just be able to see their skin, light would get blocked. If you look at someone's house, you wouldn't be able to, these flatlanders, they can't just go out of their plane and look inside of something else. They're stuck there, so the only way to see inside of someone's house is to either open the door nicely or to barge inside, knock down the wall. And that's the only way. Just like in 3 dimensions, the only way to see inside of someone's house is a window. So 2 dimensions, you could have a window to, or you can like go inside the house. Same with any space. But in 3 dimensions, looking into 2 dimensions, if I have this flat land below here, I could look into it and I can see inside of everything. Every single point in the landscape, I could see everything. I could see the outside of everything and the inside of everything. I could see the inner workings of every machine. And if somebody had a locked box in this flatland, I could pick up inside of it, pick up a thing, and I could put it outside. And people would not know what was happening because they could like, I could pick something up and it would seem to like disappear and I could put it back somewhere else. It would look like teleportation. But it's actually not because I picked it up and I put it back somewhere else. We could pick up the flat people and show them everything. And it would be really weird. They wouldn't get it and you put them back. And one way you could put them back is this funny prank called flipping. And I'll get to that later, but first I'll talk about moving stuff around in more detail. So just like 3D, we could move stuff around in 2 dimensions. We could move these things around, put them back. 4-dimensional person, there's a 4-dimensional person looking at a 3-dimensional landscape and everything. They could pick something out and they could put it back wherever they want. So what we'd see is they could like take someone's water bottle or glass or whatever and take it out. It would like disappear and then it would reappear somewhere else, but they'd actually be taking it and putting it back. And what would happen if they put their hand into our world? So okay, what would happen if I took my hand and put it into the Flatlander world? They wouldn't see anything except for the surface of my hand. The only thing they'd be able to see would be right where it intersects with a plane. So instead of seeing fingers, they'd see circles. So they'd be able to see these like circles. So it would look like these like circular things, and it would look like my hand was constantly changing as I put it in. They'd see these different shapes and stuff. And they'd only be able to see a cross section at a time. So it looked really funny looking. We wouldn't look to them at all like we look to ourselves, because you'd only be able to see a tiny bit. So if you want to imagine what that would look like, you can actually do that. You could like take a photo of your hand or something like this or any part of you, and make it as thin as you can, 1 pixel thick, and then you can look at it like, and you like see like something here, fingers, and that's what they'd see pretty much exactly. Similarly, if a 4-dimensional person went into our world, they would see. So what we'd see their fingers, but only a tiny bit of them. So we'd see these round circular cross sections, and it would look really funny, and they appear to change, and it might basically would change as they're on through.